All right, folks, it is February 28th, 2025. And of course, a lot of things are going on in the world, including an avalanche that has trapped 42 workers under snow near the India-Tibet border. So definitely dozens are missing in the Indian Himalayas avalanche. And definitely it does look like they've rescued some folks, and that is a good thing. But there's still quite a few that are missing as well. So that's something that's being reported in the news as definitely they look like they've rescued about 32 amid the bad weather, snow, and lurking danger. But at one time they were saying it was 42 that was there. Actually, with 32 of the 57 workers have been rescued. So that is good news and all along those lines, but they're still trying to get to the others as well. And the White House welcomes a call by Kurdish leader Abdullah Öcalan for Turkey's PKK terrorist group to disarm. So, Kurdish militant leader jailed by Turkey tells his movement to disarm and dissolve. So, the PKK leader urged his group to disband itself in a letter from the Turkish prison. So, that's something that folks will be talking about on the global scene as well. An airline pilot surprised by Chinese live fire warning near Australia. So China's military put specific on notice as U.S. priorities shifts. China's military drills near U.S. allies seen as a test for Trump. And New Zealand says Chinese Navy held second live fire drills in international waters. And if you're wondering about the Pope, apparently Pope Francis had a restful night amid clinical improvements. Vatican makes new plans for Ash Wednesday as worst is apparently over in the Pope's pneumonia battle. So the Pope has shown improvement as he continues to recover in the hospital. So definitely that's something else that folks will be following as well. And hundreds of thousands protest across Greece over a deadly train crash. So clashes erupt in Greece as hundreds of thousands protest a deadly train crash. Protesters and police clashed in the historical city of Athens on that deadly train crash anniversary. No trains, no planes, and a huge protest strike have apparently brought Greece to a halt, at least for now. And investigations are highlighting Israeli intelligence failures in the lead up to Hamas October 7th attack. Israel admits failure in the October 7th attack in a new report. So, Israeli military cites fundamental misunderstanding of Hamas. So, definitely they are acknowledging some of their own error as well. And India and EU agreed to conclude a long pending free trade agreement by the end of this year. So definitely looks like this is something that folks will be talking about. So the EU Commission chief Ursula von der Leyen says that a free trade deal with India could come later this year. So an unprecedented and landmark visit MEA on European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen's trip to India. So there's definitely some good conversations going on in that way. And as Ramadan nears, Syrians feel the pinch of a cash shortage. So factors indicting a harsh Ramadan for Syrians. Survival of the cherished heritage threatens as Syria undergoes transitional phase. So we'll see how this all plays out as well. And Starmer offers Trump a plea and a promise over Ukraine. And Trump will be hosting Zelensky at the White House. And definitely we'll see what goes on in that. As Trump says, Russia Ukraine peace deal will happen fairly soon or it won't be happening at all. And Trump trusts Putin to keep his word and more takeaways that were given from the conversation with Keir Starmer. And a Russian tourist died after being attacked by sharks in the Philippine diving spot, and another drowned. So definitely that's something that folks are talking about, just like they're talking about biodiversity talks in Rome's biodiversity talks in Rome have ended. Nation salvage funding deal to reverse wildlife decline, and the COP16 Nature Summit agrees on a deal at the 11th hour, but critics say it is not enough. UN talks end in Rome with nations backing $200 billion a year plan to protect nature. And Austria is getting a new coalition government without the far right election winner. So Austrian parties agree on a coalition government without the far right party. And centrist parties in Austria push aside the far right to form this new government. And on Thailand's forced return of the Uyghurs to China, the U.S. Embassy in Thailand warns Americans of violent retaliatory attack risk after Uyghurs are deported to China. So Thailand deported a 40 Uyghur man back to China after more than a decade in detention. So we'll see how this all plays out also. And Ontario's Doug Ford says in claiming election wins, he has a mandate to take on Trump. So it looks like he's saying he has a mandate to take on Trump, and we'll see how this all plays out and whether folks are giving him that mandate or not. Trump thinks he can break us. Ontario's Doug Ford makes a bullish victory speech, and Doug Ford is reelected as Ontario's premier in a vote pitched as a fight against Trump. So it looks like this will be interesting to see how this plays out as well. And Donald Trump has begun a mafia-like struggle for global power, according to The Economist. One thing that upended years of U.S. foreign policies and other big Trump developments is what NPR is reporting. So definitely a lot of folks are paying attention to what's going on in the sphere of the what Trump is doing and all along those lines. And over 7,000 from scam centers in Myanmar are waiting reparation after repatriation after a crackdown. So 80 Indonesians were freed from a scam center in Myanmar, and they're set to go home. And some folks are asking why scam centers in Southeast Asia keep flourishing. So tasered, beaten, long hours without pay. Malaysian man's 11-month ordeal in a Myanmar scam center was reported in the Straits Times. So that's definitely what something folks are talking about as well. And the first phase of Gaza's truce could end in hours. What comes next will be more difficult. Israel must be pressured into the second phase of Gaza truce. That's what Hamas is saying, and that was reported in Al Jazeera English. And it looks like Israel and Hamas have begun negotiating next phase of Gaza ceasefire, according to what the fine folks in Egypt are saying. And U.S. deportees in black box in Panama with no access to counsel, is what some lawyers are saying in that area. So Panama and Costa Rica turning into a black hole for migrants and deportees from the U.S., observers have warned. So the Panama government officials describes his country's role in Trump's immigration crackdown. So definitely a lot's going on in that space. And a blast at an M23 rally in eastern Congo killed 11 and wounded 65, according to what a rebel leader says. So in the DR Congo conflict, gunfire and explosions at a rebel rally in Bukavu, and at least 11 dead and scores injured in that in the Congo after the blast at that particular rally. So definitely folks are paying attention to some of the conflicts in the African nation as well. And Rose Garon, the oldest Holocaust survivor, has died at the age of 113. So knitting legend Rose Garon was the world's oldest Holocaust survivor, and she passed away at the age of 113. And suicide bombing at Pakistan Islamic Seminary killed 6, including Taliban-linked cleric. So just Jol S leader Mulani Hamadel Haq among the 5 dead in the Nowsheri Madrasi suicide blast, and 20 were injured. So that's something else that folks will be talking about coming out of the Asia theater. And the IAEF kills Hezbollah terrorist Mohammed Mahdi Ali Shaheen in Lebanon. So IDF carried out drone strikes on Hezbollah observation posts in South Lebanon. No more hostages released under the Gaza ceasefire until Israel agrees to end the war, Hamas sources said in the publication Haaretz. So definitely a lot of conversation going back and forth in this area. And China's defense ministry warns Tehran, we will get you sooner or later. So Taiwan tells China that World War II shows aggression will end in failure. And China's defense ministry warns Taiwan's TPP authorities will come and get you, and all along those lines. So Taiwan dispatches Navy Air Force after China launches live fire drills with no warning. So there was no warning, and they launched those drills in that sense. So the Bibis family is laid to rest as thousands in Israel line the streets to mourn, and that was a couple of days ago. So that was for the funeral for Shiri Bibis and her children, as an Israel outpouring of grief goes on as well. So definitely that's something that folks are talking about also in the news in what's going on. So, and by the way, they're saying that Vladimir Putin is hopeful after U.S. talks on Ukraine's ceasefire. So with new U.S. stance, Russian envisions a return to normalcy and IKEA. So as the gremlin eyes a thaw with the White House, Russia's pro-war hawks aren't too happy. So we'll see how this all plays out as well. So lots going on in that sense. And no-show aid cuts marred the G20 meet on global poverty, so the G20 finance chiefs failed to agree on a joint communique after trade and climate clashes, I should say. And the EU beat COVID and ditched Russian energy. Now it must learn to live without U.S. energy, apparently, as well. So looks like U.S. and European defense are making a virtue of necessity. So lots going on in that sense as well. We'll get to some U.S. news and see what folks have got going on in that part of the world. Might get to a commercial or two as well and see if anybody is going to join me on this particular edition of World Edition. But right now, it looks like it's just me on a solo round. But we'll see if any of the fine folks join us and what they've got to say about a number of these stories as well. So the judge has blocked the firing of a probationary federal employee. That is something going on as well. So the judge blocked Trump's administration's mass firing of federal workers. So definitely, judge says Trump administration memos directing mass firings were illegal. So OPM tells court it never ordered mass firings, contradicting prior claims. And an Iowa lawmaker passes a bill to eliminate transgender civil rights protections. So Iowa has moved to eliminate trans rights and all along those lines. So we'll see what folks have to say about that in the rights sphere. So folks that are interested in different rights and everything. And Mexico has extradited notorious drug lord Rafael Caro Quintero and dozens of cartel members. So Attorney General Pamela Bondi announces 29 wanted defendants from Mexico were taken into U.S. custody. So it looks like Mexico has handed over some drug cartel leaders to the U.S., and a Canadian man linked to an ex-Olympian crime ring was one of those extradited to the U.S. from Mexico. So we'll see how this all plays out as well. And like I said, there is that conversation that will be going on between Trump and Zelensky, who will hold a high-stakes summit amid tensions over the peace talks with Putin. And Zelensky appeals to Trump for continued U.S. support as he joins a G7 video meeting, and that was a couple of days ago. So Zelensky is hopeful that the U.S. will continue its support. And the GOP push for DOGE cuts inflames talks to prevent a shutdown. So it looks like signs in the capital agenda are pointing to a long stopgap and everything. So Congress barrels toward a shutdown deadline with few signs of progress on a funding bill. So DOGE cuts complicate the government funding talks and raise shutdown fears. And layoffs at Federal Weather and Climate Agency are threatening your forecast. So mass firings across the National Weather Service and the NOAA ignite fury among scientists. Cruel and thoughtless, that is what some folks are reporting, as Trump fired hundreds at the U.S. Climate Agency, NOAA. So they apparently laid off 100 employees, and that's something that folks will be talking about as well. So lots going on in that space. And when it comes to tariffs, they're saying Trump can't have it all. Nation on brink of trade war with allies as Trump doubles down on tariffs. Trump says tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China will take effect on Tuesday. And Trump plans another 10% tariff on products from China. So definitely a lot of people also paying attention to those Epstein files. Attorney General Pam Bondi alleges FBI agents withheld Epstein documents, and longtime Epstein watchers are reacting to the release of the Epstein files and understand that there are some people are disappointed, even though there's some names in there that folks were expecting to see. And a deal is reached to end an illegal strike by the New York State prison workers, according to the governor in New York and everything. And the U.S. has terminated funding for polio, HIV, malaria, and nutrition programs around the world. So that was reported by the New York Times. So fired USAID employees speak out after gathering belongings from their office and all along those lines. And the Trump administration says it's cutting 90% of U.S. foreign aid contracts. So we'll see how this all plays out also. Moscow asked for direct flights to resume between Russia and the U.S. Russia sees talks with the U.S. as an opening to rebuild its spy network, according to officials. And Russia offers to restore direct air links with the U.S. during an Istanbul talks that took place as well. So there was a February 27th meeting in Istanbul. And inside the Ukraine-U.S. minerals deals, it's not what you might think. according to Radio Free Europe. So, at meeting with Trump, Zelensky will seek security assurances against future Russian aggression. And Zelensky and Trump are expected to sign, excuse me, a Ukraine mineral deal during that White House visit that's coming up as well. And they're saying that Trump gold card is unlikely to eliminate the national debt. So this is so dystopian, according to an article in the Yahoo. People are sharing their unfiltered reactions to Donald Trump's plan to charge $5 million for a path to U.S. citizenship. So Trump's proposed gold card visa comes with a hidden tax break for the wealthy. So definitely that's what folks are paying attention to as well. And they're saying that 7 states could thwart the GOP's plans to overhaul Medicaid. So Republicans say states are pulling a fast one on Medicaid. Medicaid spending is under scrutiny. Here's what that means for Washington and all along those lines. And it could be trouble. Republicans fear their big budget win is actually something that could be happening around 2026, or it could be hurting them in 2026, I should be saying, and all along those lines. So that's something that folks will be talking about as well. So GOP gambles on budget plan that helps the rich and cuts aid to the poor. So definitely lots going on in the world, including the former LA fire chief, Kristen Crowley, appeals her dismissal. So former LA fire chief, Kristen Crowley, I should say, appeals her dismissal by Mayor Karen Bass. So lots going on, including this tariff war. And of course, Congress has voted to kill Biden-era methane fees on oil and gas producers. So Senate sends repeal of methane fee implementation to Trump's desk. So Congress is reversing attacks on this climate super pollutant and everything. So I did see that I've got Rick with me, and I got a question for him based on something that I read from Mr. Trump as well. And it's actually something that Nick has brought up on this network as well. So I'm very curious to see what Rick has to say about this, because he was saying that Biden was the worst president of all, but apparently he did some serious fat shaming, because he said that we are a bloated nation. This nation has gotten disgusted. So his exact quote, because apparently he was fat shaming America. This country has gotten bloated, fat, disgusting, and he apparently blamed Biden for this whole notion of what's going on. But of course, Trump's own weight has been under scrutiny, and he is known for sometimes going to McDonald's. But apparently, when he got booked into that Atlanta jail back in 2023, he was pounds lighter than his last known White House physical. Meanwhile, the average American man weighs 199.8 pounds, according to the CDC. But I guess he was trying to say that we're eating too much junk food.
He's freaking ridiculous. So he may be on America's actually getting skinnier now that Ozempic is being used more widely. Mm-hmm. I would guess that Trump is maybe on a little bit of Ozempic, or I mean, he did lose weight after J6.
Right.
After he got so bummed out about the end of, how he left the White House, that he probably dropped 15 pounds then. And I don't think he's put it back on, but he's been a fat ass for decades, and that's just crazy talk. I mean, he just says whatever the frick he wants in the moment.
Apparently that's what he does. He just kind of says whatever he feels like it at the moment. But yeah, apparently they were saying that he was fat shaming, and they did kind of tease him, because he is known for going to McDonald's and just popping up at a McDonald's, or popping up and having certain Cokes and other drinks and everything. But
he says, or in the past, he said that the one reason he likes McDonald's is that he can just walk in and he knows that he won't be poisoned, because you're just grabbing food off the rack there that's waiting. That
it's been there for a while.
Again, just all right. So, and with the Epstein files, yes. I don't think anything released yesterday was new. It was a lot of these files have been released earlier. I don't think anything new was released. Of course, nothing released yesterday had Trump's name in it, even though Trump's name appears 7 times in flight logs to and from Epstein Island.
I didn't realize it was that many times.
7, yeah.
Well, so that's a lot of times. I did see that. I think Michael Jackson and some other celebrities were in there, but like you said, they weren't names that were not unexpected and everything. And
I mean, you could have gone to that place and not been banging underage girls. Michael Jackson certainly wouldn't have been interested in that.
right, so he might have been, and that's because I'm assuming this island had all kinds of amenities. I never got a flight to it, so I don't know what this island is supposed to have had and everything. So, what from your Hollywood friends are they saying was supposed to be in this island?
I don't know. I made a joke yesterday saying that Trump was just going to the island to evaluate its suitability for a Long John Silver's fish and chips and a Burlington coat factory.
And he could have been doing that, just like he's trying to make some decisions on what he'll be putting in the Gaza Strip and everything. Because he's going to put some different hotels and maybe some timeshares and a bunch of other things.
Probably not a Burlington coat factory. That's not,
But, no, I think they probably want something a little bit more high end in Gaza. So they might be looking for some of those more high end shops there in Gaza, since they're not that far from Dubai and some of those other places in the Middle East that are probably going to want the high end stores. But I could be wrong.
Yeah. So all right. What's
going on about with the fire? Because is this woman going to get her job back and everything? Because
I don't know. I mean, the mayor is obviously trying to cover her ass to the point, and I don't know. During the fires, it seemed like she was doing a good job, and I haven't read that much after that. There might be some. I mean, there were I think some bad decisions that she may have made about limiting the deployment, that they had more engines available to hit it early. I don't know if she made some of the errors in judgment that I've read about, then maybe, she deserves to get fired. I don't know.
I don't know either. The other thing I've been hearing a lot of people talk about, I don't know your thoughts around this, but there are rumors, and there are always rumors when the side loses. I know that sometimes even Nick talks about sides losing, but there are all these rumors about the top of the ticket heading toward one that won and one that was vice president heading to divorce court and everything. So I've heard this rumor about both Kamala and her husband, and now there's been several of these rumors about Barack and Michelle and everything. So I don't know.
I mean, absent legal documents being filed, I don't buy any of that.
Yeah, I'm thinking that it's just political gamesmanship. That's the word I was looking for. It's probably just political gamesmanship. I wonder what Jacoby thinks about that. So we'll ask Jacoby. Jacoby, there's been two things. We were talking about apparently Trump got into a whole conversation about fat shaming and everything. So he was fat shaming America. And then we were just talking about just now these rumors that have been out there, talking about the messaging and all along those lines. But these rumors that both Michelle and Barack are heading to a divorce court, and the same with Kamala and her
husband. So you're talking about a fat guy fat shaming America, and two rumors that were in the Inquirer that Trump has his buddy running.
So that is true. It is his buddy that runs that magazine. His buddy just runs that magazine. So he just got all kinds of craziness. You weren't on yesterday because I think you might have had a hockey game and everything. But we were talking yesterday, which you'll be glad to know about because you talk about messaging quite a bit, Jacoby. But apparently MeidasTouch, which we've also talked about before, has beaten Joe Rogan. So there was a big article that came out, and a lot of folks are now glad because I think it's 55 million to 50 million. So maybe we are seeing some more effective messaging from the left than we were thinking and everything, because apparently the MeidasTouch is now knocked Joe Rogan out of that top spot.
Well, I don't know if it's a matter of the messaging has changed or stuff like that. Usually the GOP still has the handle on the messaging, hands down. The party in power usually is the one where the messaging is less effective because they're in power, and that's what people are finally seeing. I think what is going on in that situation is that, in a sense, I mean, you have more people that are starting to tune in because there's a lot of frustration that is out there. I know that the White House is trying to tout polls, but that's part of their messaging. That's what they do. Any poll that's positive for them, that's going to be what they tout. I think it's if you look at the YouGov polls, he's underwater in the YouGov polls, but in the Harris poll, he's way, way high. But if you look at what they're asking, he's still underwater, really. And this goes into why the messaging is so effective, is because what they say is they say 3 words, and and everybody agrees with those 3 words, which is waste, fraud, and abuse. We don't need but that's what they do to manipulate the polls to make them sound better for themselves and actually manipulate people to actually utilize their same messaging. Who doesn't want to get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse?
Right.
Everybody wants to get rid of that. But when you use that as your excuse, it changes the argument, and then you're arguing about waste, fraud, that terminology, and that's why, like, even with Nick yesterday, when Nick is going on this same tired argument, we want girls out of women's, we don't want men in women's sports. Well, that's not what's happening. It's easier to say that and to argue over it rather than actually what is happening.
There's no room for subtlety. There are only 4 NCAA athletes, 4,
Yeah.
this many, who are competitive trans athletes out of 50,000. And so, and you could look at those, you could look at those people individually and figure out what to do. Instead, it's like, the trannies are coming for your kid.
Yep.
With the polls, it's I'm looking at 538, which averages all the polls.
Right.
538 should do a better job of squeezing out the bullshit polls. Like Qantas Insights, a Republican-affiliated pollster, has Trump up positive net approval of 6. Reuters, a journalistic kind of company, has him down by 6. Napolitan Institute. These are people. Rasmussen got kicked out of the average for being too biased towards Republicans. So some people split off from Rasmussen, started Napolitan, has him up by 6. So it just depends on the politics of who's doing the poll. I want to go back to Obama for a second.
Yeah.
The only way that we could give credence to any rumors would be if Barack Obama made any noise about wanting to get back into politics, because Michelle Obama made no secret about loathing frickin' politics. But I don't think either of them want to get back into the mud wrestling, that is going on now. They got out pretty clean, and they're TV producers now. I assume they're enjoying their lives and don't want to get anywhere near politics again.
Well, apparently that was one of the criticisms from the right, of course, over Kamala again, because apparently she signed with CAA, which I know because it's one of those major agencies in California and everything, and people are upset. And there was even some people that wrote, well, what talent does she have? Because apparently she's doing that to get some speaking engagements and, of course, work on her book and a number of other things.
I was hip-pocketed with CAA, which is a term for, we're not going to officially represent you because you're not good enough, you're not big enough, but we will, you can call us up and we'll hook you up with, you can go on an interview every once in a while to see if, and if you get hired, then maybe we'll represent you.
Yep,
that's a possibility and everything like that.
Hey, yes, CAA is a big, nice, agency, obviously.
Well, the big thing is that they're not upset. What it is manufactured outrage again, right, so they can run with this whole idea that the Hollywood is liberal and hates you. All this is liberal and hates you. It's the same thing Rick just pointed out about trans. Well, the trans people are coming to. It's just built on fear and hate, and it's easy to gin those two up.
But one more thing about her husband, Doug Emhoff, who probably had to give up his career while she was VP, is an entertainment lawyer. Of course, they should have something to do with frickin' entertainment.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. They got to do that. Hey, Joey, question, and this is outside of the realm of news and everything. It's more sports related. Does any of these athletes that are the offsprings of great athletes ever make it and do anything? I mean, I know Austin Rivers, so that was Doc Rivers' son, did decent, but he was not great and everything. Not that Doc was all that super and everything, but he was at least a all-star and everything. But now I see that Tiger Woods' granddaughter is getting ready to hit the golf courses. Everybody's trying to figure out what LeBron's son is going to do, but most people are saying that he's not that great of a basketball player. So can you give me an example of a basketball player that was the son of a great that actually did good?
Steph Curry.
Well, Del Curry wasn't a great though.
Yeah,
But if you
was
look
good.
combined, I think combined they have 31 years in the NBA.
So you had like Del Curry was an above average player. You don't have a dominant player that has a dominant child playing. Like even Shaq's daughter in LSU was, okay, but she wasn't dominant like Shaq was. So but you do have the average player that has that dominant child. Again, Del Curry and Steph Curry. Steph Curry is just, I mean, last night put up 56 points.
Right.
Dude is still unreal. But again, Del Curry wasn't that dominant player. And during Del Curry's time, I mean, that was Michael Jordan's time. Yeah. Michael Jordan's son never really panned out.
Nope.
LeBron's son isn't an NBA player. He's, again, nothing against Bronny and nothing against his other son that's coming through, who's actually better than Bronny, but Bronny isn't an NBA player. Bronny he's a developmental league player at best. And again, nothing against him. Hope the kid has a great time. But the reason he's there in LA is because his father is considered the greatest basketball player ever. And his father has been putting up giant buckets and all the other stuff.
Like you
said, there's statistics called reversion to the mean.
Mm-hmm.
And being the son of a great like LeBron gives you a little push away from average, but it can't push you all the way. Like LeBron is, if you know about standard deviations, LeBron is like a 4 or a 5 standard deviations. I don't know, just way out at the end of the bell curve. And Bronny is, like just making it to where he's made it puts him like 3 standard deviations above, the average, kid in high school or college, but you can't drag somebody all the way out to greatness.
Scottie Pippen has his son that's doing well in college. He's going to be another one of those that's going to be an average player in the NBA.
I mean, look at other fields. Like, has a great writer ever had a kid who's a great? I think there's one example, the Dumas guys, Alexander Dumas in France.
Did one of Ernest Hemingway's kids do some writing too? I think they did.
What's that? Oh, Stephen King's kid is a really good writer, but
Ernest Hemingway have a kid that did the writing?
Books. What?
Ernest Hemingway. I thought they had a kid that did some writing, but I could be wrong.
I don't know. But Stephen King's kid is Joe Hill. And he's written a bunch of books. Some of them have been made into, I think, TV shows and movies. But can't match Stephen King for selling like 250 million books.
Yeah.
And
I think also it's tough for that kid to live in that shadow. It's because you're always going to have an expectation placed upon you, and you're never going to be able to live up to that expectation.
So I think it can go a couple ways, but like I feel like growing up in Stephen King's house, it was probably just going to a clinic every freaking day out of love of what they were doing. Because Stephen King has a reputation of reading every place, reading while he's pissing, reading in the shower, taking a shower, holding a book outside the shower, just insane reader. And I'm sure in that household, they were, breaking down everything, talking about what they love. And it's that way, I assume, in the LeBron household that
Yep.
that there's not a push, like you gotta, there's just like talking about the subtleties of the game.
And that was right. That was right. By the way, Ernest Hemingway did have 3 kids, and one of them was a author, but they were nowhere near the success of their dad, because Jack Hemingway went on, became a conservationist, outdoorsman, and an author. And then, of course, one of them wrote a book about their dad, which would have been great.
With presidents, we've got John Adams and then John Quincy Adams. And I think John Quincy Adams was supposed to have been a pretty great president.
Well, even if you go into the music industry, you got the whole Marley clan. Bob Marley with Steph. Stephen Marley. Stephen Marley, honestly, is the best for me. I think he sounds the most like his dad. But
more so than Ziggy?
Yeah. Ziggy was good, but no, Stephen, with that the Acoustic Soul, what is it? I think it's the Acoustic Soul album, or acoustic, what is it called? That's actually my favorite album by Stephen Marley, because it's just, they took actually a song from that album, and that was in the Luke Cage soundtrack, the Marvel one.
Oh, wow.
But in my hometown,
the Acoustic Mind Control.
In my hometown, the Catholic families had, the Catholic school had great basketball teams, because the Catholics had a ton of kids, and they were always, they built a basketball court in front of their house, and they were just playing 10 hours a day against each other. And it was not because there was a tiger parent, it was because they were good at it and they loved it. And so the Gondrzeks, they sent at least one kid to the NBA, maybe 2 for a second. The Vanderways, they're not from Boulder, but it's the same. I think there was Kiki Vanderway, and then I think they have a daughter who's in the WNBA, isn't great, but made it to the W. So, like, and like, you look at the Osmonds in music, where the Jacksons. Now the Jacksons were not a good example, because Joe Jackson was always just pushing them, and
he was constantly pushing them.
And then maybe there was some joy for them in it, but they were probably not doing it for the joy of it. They were doing it because of the push. But I feel like the Osmonds, they seemed like like a family that, maybe they were doing it at least partly for the joy of it.
Yeah, getting off of this, but also on the entertainment stuff, because you brought this story up yesterday, and I'm a little bit confused. Maybe you can help me, because you know that Hollywood area, just like I know Jacoby knows it because of some family members and everything. But how long do you have to have your body be in your house in order to be partially mummified? Because they're saying that Gene Hackman and his wife, that they were partially mummified. So that tells me that they had been dead for a while.
I don't know. I've seen people. I've seen one person who was, 6 weeks later. It took a while to track. Well, it was my brother-in-law, and he was homeless, and he was on ice for more than a month. But I guess you don't get mummified if you're being kept in a cooler. But this is in New Mexico. New Mexico is, Santa Fe is 7,000 feet above sea level, and 5% humidity. So if you're going to get mummified someplace, Santa Fe is, the place to do it.
They were saying it was been a day or two since the time that they were found in the town with the body, but they are saying that part of it was mummified. So
her hands and feet, which makes sense, because you got the most surface area versus flesh. You're gonna.
Yeah, it's a sad situation. I'm curious what the investigation is going to find, since they were all they were in separate rooms. Those two,
and there was evidence that Gene Hackman, he was walking with a cane, was unsteady, 95 years old. We'll find out more, but that it maybe looked like he took a fall that killed him.
I did not realize until I was watching Hollywood Square that Nicolas Cage, I think, is related to Francis Ford Coppola or one of those people. So I was not.
I think he changed his last name to Cage.
Yeah, I think that's what he did.
Want to
Right.
be trading on the last name or something like that.
Yeah,
But yeah.
that's what I heard. That he changed the name because he didn't want to be trading on it because I think that's supposed to be his uncle and everything. And by the way, Terry's on. So Terry was saying immigrants did not take away middle class jobs. Trump did and everything. So what is our thoughts around this notion of who taking away the jobs? Because apparently a lot of government jobs are gone, and those are definitely middle class jobs.
I do have a correction. An immigrant did. That immigrant is Elon Musk. Yeah. So yeah, it's again, we talked about it a little bit ago. It's that they're coming for our jobs. They are still demonizing immigrants. They are the whole this administration is, and I don't know how many more signs and signals we need to point out the bigotry and the discrimination coming from this administration. Did you talk about, well, since I came in late, I didn't know if you talked about how the education department, the Department of Education, putting on that whole idea that they've created a website where you're supposed to report as a vigilante, take photos and everything else if somebody teaches or does anything DEI associated. And that is legalized discrimination on a whole new level. And so again, I don't know how many signs we need to point out how bigoted this administration is.
So that's not, there's another question to ask. All the chaos, all the jobs cut from the government now, has it saved any money? We're not seeing any evidence that it has. If you want to look at, people are comparing this administration to Bill Clinton's, because Bill Clinton cut 400,000 government jobs. Bill Clinton balanced the budget. Bill Clinton was president for 8 years consecutively, and he did it slowly, methodically, without all the chaos. And he asked David Walker. David Walker kind of loves how Clinton governed because Clinton balanced the budget. He reduced the national debt. That was the last time that's happened.
Yep, and Clinton did cut jobs, but again, as you pointed out, he cut them smartly. He did not cut all USAID workers and then say, "Oops, there's Ebola that's tied up in that." And I've seen interviews with USAID workers, and they've talked about how when Elon said that, "Oh well, we put that back in." Dude, you destroyed the infrastructure of the USAID program. You did not restore any money. You did not restore anything. Matter of fact, the money is still being blocked by the administration that you're supposedly an advisor for or working for or not working for. We don't know. So yes, that whole thing is destroyed. So he's doing nothing like a Clinton. He's just going in. He's firing veterans, firing anybody he can because he's doing a head count. And there was somebody, they said, well, we're firing the most expensive of the workers and finding somebody who's younger beneath them. Well, that doesn't work because these people aren't trained and don't understand what's going on in the system that they are the youth of. And then there's the idea of firing all probationary workers. The idea behind probationary worker isn't someone who is, hey, they got in trouble. No, when you move up in your position, you're a probationary worker. So you're firing somebody who just got hired for a higher level position for great things that they were doing at that lower level.
Some of these probationary workers who got fired have been working in their department for a dozen years or more. They got a promotion, and that made them a rookie at that position, but not in the department they've been working in.
So
And a lot
it's
of agencies
So let's,
that
let's
were
go back to Clinton for a second. His nickname was Slick Willie.
right.
And one reason was he was a politician. He would listen to what people wanted. Clinton's approval was pretty terrible for the first couple of years of his first term. And then they did internal polling. He probably read op-eds, and he moved rightward because he saw that the polling said he would pick up more support if he moved to the right. And that led to some mistakes, like, throwing a ton of people into prison. But
No, he definitely made some mistakes.
the idea that you listen to the people and you try to do what the people want is completely freaking foreign to freaking Trump.
No, that's foreign to Trump. Oh, totally, and everything. But
Trump
just really quickly along those same lines, because she's back in the news. Speaking of Clinton and everything, have either one of you bothered to listen to this talk show that Monica Lewinsky is doing, or this podcast? Because apparently she's saying that she would that the mistake that Clinton made was that he didn't resign after the scandal and everything. So apparently she's back in the news. So have either one of you watched this show?
I haven't had a chance to. I wanted to. I mean, I have nothing against Monica Lewinsky. I think she is the victim, but we have, as a society, because who Clinton was, and this is the problem that many women face, especially dealing with, because sexual abuse is mainly is not sexual gratification. It's all about power dynamic. Well, the majority is about a power dynamic, and that's what she was trapped in. And this is why a lot of women don't report, is because of the situations that Monica Lewinsky has had to go through. But yeah, I want to see it. I want to see what she has to talk about. I think she is what what women go through is what Monica Lewinsky goes through, or has been going through. So yeah,
I haven't listened to her thing, but I saw the 8-hour, mini series that they did about it. I think it was on FX maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and everybody was Clinton a pure predator? He had a record of trying to get pussy wherever he could. At the same time, they were each framing. There was a certain framing that it was like mentor mentee, that I'm going to teach you about the world. I'm going to give you books to read, and you're going to blow me and jerk me off. And then she falls in love with him. He's trying to distance himself from her. I mean, it was a whole mess. And yeah, the power dynamic was, certainly, the president of the United States, a Rhodes Scholar, versus a 21-year-old, 22-year-old intern. Yeah. So, but at the same time, it wasn't like pure predation. She was, anyway. I don't know. I'm going to say stupid shit, so I should shut up about this.
No, you're not going to say stupid shit, but I do want to ask you guys a big question about the Epstein files. Did anyone, I've been reading whatever they do allow out. I don't know why they're doing this in sections other than to protect, they say to protect the innocent and victims, but I feel like it's to protect the guilty. But did anyone who read it read in there, that they were going through each item, and there was an envelope in there, just one so far. I don't know how many more, but one that contained $17,000 in currency. Now, I'm just going to tell everyone, when the world crumbles or a U.S. crumbles, go knock down the vaults at the law enforcement and go through the files, because they take people's money and put them in an envelope and store them. And maybe that's where a debt problem is.
I mean, Kim, let's be honest. You know why they're releasing it in sections. Because before Trump got into office, they had released some Epstein files. whose name was all on the Epstein files and in the call logs. So Trump is all in the Epstein files.
So did you ever go look at, there's a lot of photos, and this is before all of this came out, but these photos were posted a long time ago. So they're not edited with AI to make it look bad, but there were pictures of him and Elon with a bunch of kids. And it wasn't a charitable event.
All right, you can pose next to kids. It doesn't mean you're banging kids. This was what
he's about to be posing next to a whole bunch of other kids thanks to Melania and everything, because they just announced that they're going to roll out the first
what about
White
the
House.
$17,000?
They're going to roll out the first White House Easter egg roll on April 21st. And Jatofi, you'll be glad to know, because you got kids, there's an online lottery for free tickets for the event in the South Lawn, available for families with children 13 years
Protesters,
old and younger. So
go.
are you going to go over there and try to get on the lawn and to roll tickets with Melania and the Don?
They don't want black
protesters.
They don't want black people. I get kicked out for DEI.
So there has been some rumors, of course, always lots and lots of rumors going around, and a lot of propaganda on both sides, right? There's fear mongering going on, but I'm fortunate. I'm going to be going to CERAWeek. Hope David Walker is still joining me, because that's where the real leaders are from all over the world. I've been able to ask them questions that, you hear all of these people on the news. They're not even there. And they're just making up crap. It was not what was said in those meetings. And I'll never forget the day that I went not long after Biden got into office, and everyone was spreading the rumor, that there's a shortage on gas because of Biden. And because of that, the gas prices have to go up. And so the minute they sat down and I could ask a question, I asked the question, is there really a shortage? Because golly gee, my common sense, I'm just a dumb blonde, but my common sense tells me you pumped for the last 2 years and nobody was using it. So you just put it in storage. I mean, that I've heard this rumored here, but is there really a shortage? And that's why the gas prices go up? And they go, no, oh my God, you're right. We pumped for years.
Okay, well,
and we just let media run with that, but we just wanted to raise the prices so we can get ourselves.
That happens in California.
That is not a lie. They told me that.
In California, the refiners play this game just about every year. They shut down a refinery and say, for maintenance, and that lets them jack up the prices another 50 cents a gallon, which, goes to the oil companies.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that you can Google this. They even said you can go out and look at our profit and loss sheets. We did this to give ourselves bonuses. And I think it was, $96 billion in bonuses for 3 of the major companies, Exxon and a couple of
it's $3 billion. Yeah. John Stewart.
Yeah. So they didn't, but they admitted it there in a meeting. But when I came back home to tell people, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. That's not what Fox told me. I go, Fox wasn't even there. They weren't even there in the rooms during the press conferences. They so don't tell me, and so everything I heard on Fox News, that's when I decided to go listen. Everything I heard on Fox News was not what was said.
I want to go back to Trump and Ivanka, for instance, for a second, where the libs love to say, of which I am one, but he wants to bang Ivanka, and I think it's less that than Trump is just a freaking idiot who used to go on Howard Stern every couple weeks. And different families have different styles. Like there are a bunch of pictures of Trump with Ivanka on his lap as she was growing up. And it's like, oh, I think he's just kind of an idiot. And, and goes on, you go on Howard Stern, and Stern would goad you into saying stupid stuff, especially if you're stupid to begin with. And so I'm sure they would prod him into saying how bangable Ivanka is, and he would, he'd say that stuff because he's a blowhard and an idiot. I don't think he wants to bang his own kid.
Well, and the thing is, he said some rude things, but he does all the time. But the thing is that our economy is not getting any better, and he blames that on Biden. He's using excuses as to why he can't make the economy better. So what he's doing is he's doing his other agenda. He's going after Gaza, right? he's always said he wanted Gaza. Last time he was in office, he wanted to put his Trump towers down Gaza because it's a beautiful place. The reason why he tried to attack TikTok, his last administration, you actually heard it when he was signing his executive orders that first night. And somebody asked him about the TikTok ban, and he goes, "Oh, they're bad people. Nobody wants to do business with them. They're horrible, but I want to partner with them." Okay, so you got to listen, and you also need to read the bills, because the certain bills now, women can't even leave their own state when they're pregnant. They will be tried for murder if the baby miscarries in any way, and they'll go to prison for 5 years. And I think that all of this nonsense needs to stop.
Well, here's the argument where obviously, Trump's been in office for 39 days, I think. Can't blame him for the price of eggs. That's avian flu.
I do.
But no, the deal is
actually to correct you on that.
Hold on, wait. The rest of the other half of the argument is you couldn't blame Biden for the price of a lot of stuff.
But they did.
So if you're going to blame Biden for then you got to blame. Then it's fair to blame Trump.
Right.
So with the avian flu, for example, you can actually blame Trump for this, because what was one of the things that they cut? NIH, CDC, all the employees that were actually studying and working.
Immigrants who help work the farms.
So,
okay?
Well, I mean, I'm not even talking about that part, but the main thing that is the problem with eggs right now is the avian flu. And because of the bird flu, we have fired individuals that were working on the research to help with bird flu. So the problem is now exacerbated and continues to grow, and because of the fact that we don't have people working to figure out a solution.
They've also
that
cut
was
funding
doing. We can legitimately now blame them on that. I get what you're saying about, like, for example, the price of oil. You can't really blame Biden for oil, or the price of gas. You can't really blame Trump.
I never blame Biden or Trump for oil gas, because I go to those meetings all the time.
There are particular strings that we can tie to Trump now. That and we gotta avoid we can't blame him for it because that's this disease. Well,
we're obligated to blame Trump for shit because we have to do what the other side does. That whole Michelle Obama, when they go low, we go high. No, we saw that didn't work. So if Biden got blamed for everything, you got to blame Trump, because the messaging.
So the cost of things went up because the main resource to everything is gas and oil, and the gas prices keep going up. And the oil, and I will be at that conference coming real soon.
Failure of messaging. Biden, the last 3 years of his presidency, we broke records for fossil fuel production in the U.S. We were energy independent.
Yeah, we didn't lose.
Where was the messaging? The White House was.
Why do we need more oil?
They were so afraid to lose voters, but they needed to be out there saying, "Drill, baby, drill. I'm the drill, baby, drill president."
Well,
but hold on.
And where are the people going to come from to work the oil rigs? Well, those are the most dangerous jobs in our country. The most dangerous.
So again, the energy prices that is a factor in the pricing. It definitely is. But it is not what is driving up the prices to the way that they're going, because as pointed out, we are producing more energy now than we have in the history of the country. So the energy prices we have to actually talk about, that is not what's really driving these prices. We have to point out the actual other factors that are determining the price of these things. And those are the things that Trump does have control over. And those are the things that Trump has created problems with. So the reason, for example, firing these individuals, again, we've already talked about firing around avian flu and stuff like that. That's created a problem. That was Trump. The cost of healthcare, overburdening people at the VA, because Trump is now firing people around the VA system. That's a problem. Healthcare industry, you're firing scientists, which creates more problem in that field to create these vaccines, medicines, so on and so forth. Like RTI is going to lose people because they receive government funding. That drives up the costs. So therefore, that is a Trump thing. So there are other factors. So we cannot fall into the trap of, well, energy prices is what drives the prices. It's not now because we're producing more energy.
Well,
Also,
we're also creating more.
One more thing. Saudi likes Trump. Saudi has a big lever on oil prices. And if they decide to cut back the supply and drive prices up, which I believe they did towards the end of Biden, that was designed to help Trump get elected.
But what we need to do now, unfortunately, is say goodbye and tell everyone, thank you for watching us. Please have a safe and healthy weekend so that you can stay wealthy. Watch some of Sasha's shows so that you can learn a little bit on how to invest in these interesting times, because it's just only going to get more interesting. And you know what? If you lost your job, feel free to reach out and contact me. I'd love to hear your story. But everyone, it's not going to get any better. It's only going to get more chaos because Trump is a reality TV show host. So is our head of TSA. They don't know the difference between TV and real life. So
Kash Patel, the new head of the FBI, said he wants to run it part-time from Vegas because that's where he lives in his mansion.
But I thought that they were all supposed to go to their desk and jobs. So and his director has a lot of mental issues. So don't tell me they're not doing DEI. So anyway, everyone take care. We love you. Be safe. And, just start taking care of yourself. And women, start planning to move out of the country. You have no rights in this country anymore. And we'll see you.